Is not inspiring. Malacanang stands by its decision to ease restrictions. The fate of NCR and other areas will be announced June 15. But as early as now, restaurants are setting up for a totally different dining experience that, as authorities recommend opening dine-in services at 30% capacity. And that's despite COVID-19 cases in the country now topping 24,000. Experts would still like to believe the curve is already flattening. And it's not just PM. A BIR registration and settling of taxes is now key for online sellers. And on the eve of a planned Mañanita protest, officials warn a ban on mass gatherings will be strictly enforced. And having a hard time breathing with your mask on, not the case for this one artist as he turns to prosthetics for that additional protection. We begin tonight with the palace admitting that the rise in COVID-19 cases in the country does not inspire confidence, but nonetheless, they're standing by their call to ease quarantine restrictions in Metro Manila. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque was commenting on a resurfacing forecast from the University of the Philippines back in May. It predicted that a premature relaxation of quarantine restrictions in NCR could result in as much as 24,000 COVID-19 cases by June, which is where the case count pretty much stands right now.
Kung tama po ang figura ng datos ng UP, tama rin naman po ang datos ng gobyerno. Bakit po? Kasi talagang tinatanggap natin na pataas po yung numero na yan habang walang bakuna, habang walang gamot. Ang binabantayan lang po natin yung kakayahan nating magbigay ng medical assistance dun sa mga magkakasakit na malala. Dahil kinakailangan ibalanse rin natin yung ekonomiya natin, no? Yung pagkakaroon ng hanap buhay ng lahat. Dahil kung hindi mamamatay sa COVID, baka mamamatay dahil sa gutom na, no? Dahil walang hanap buhay. So sa akin, tama naman po ang mga naging desisyon ng ating IATF. Nakita natin na nabuksan natin ang ekonomiya. Ang death rates po natin ay bagamat meron pang namamatay, single digit po siya on a daily basis.
In the same briefing, Roque clarified that all returning OFWs are billeted in hotels paid for by the government and that those who were photographed staying under a bridge in Naiya were stranded locals.
VIP treatment talaga mga OFW. Wala pong natulog sa ilalim ng tulay na OFW. Lahat po ng ating OFW naka-hotel. Binabayaran po ng gobyerno. Kaya nga po VIP yan at libre rin ang pauwi sa kanila. Yung mga nasa ilalim ng tulay po, tama po ko yung sinabi nyo, ito po yung mga stranded na ating mga kababayan. No? Pero ganun pa man, nagkaroon na po ng pulisiya ang ating National Task Force, pinamumunuan ni Secretary Galvez at ang ating DOTR. Tutulungan na rin po natin ang mga stranded. No? Dahil Pilipino pa rin sila, no?
With all these, the palace official says he trusts the president's decision on the fate of NCR and other COVID-infected areas once the general community quarantine lapses on June 15.
Ano pa ang nangyayari sa Metro Manila at iba pang mga lungsod at probinsya pagpasok ng Martes, June 16? Konting intay na lang po. Mismong si Presidente Duterte po ang haharap at kakausap sa taong bayan sa Lunes, June 15, para i-anunsyo ito.
The IATF approves the gradual resumption of dine-in services amid the quarantine. But food establishment owners are reminded health protocols should be strictly observed. So how will the new dining experience be like? Jenny Dongon shows us in this story.
Following the IATF's go signal for dine-in services starting June 15, establishments in Metro Manila are now doing the necessary adjustments. This restaurant in Quezon City changed its sitting plan and put markers on the floor in accordance with social distancing protocols. Chairs are covered with plastic while tables are set meters apart. Their menu is now on a paper which serves as a placemat for easy disposal after use. Before entering the premises, the customer must step on the floor bath. His body temperature will then be checked. Plastic barriers are placed in the counter area to separate the customers from the staff.
Kaysa naman walang trabaho. Kahit pa paano, kahit ganitong setup, kailangan gawin namin, kaya sumunod sa gobyerno eh. Mahirap eh. Ngayon, siyempre, pag nagkamali ka, anytime pwede ipasara yung restaurant eh.
Because of these protocols, the restaurant will also be forced to limit its customer.
Malaking changes. Kasi katulad dito, ang capacity nito, nasa 32 eh. Eh ngayon, ang sinetap ko dito sa cellar area, cellar to kung tawagin, non-smoking, nasa 18 lang.
For this karinderya in Pasig City, the resumption of dine-in services will be a big help.
Karamihan po kasi halos dine-in talagang customer namin. Karamihan po yun. Ngayon po na medyo puro take-out, matumal po talaga. Iba po talaga yung magpapadine-in kami.
That's why they are committed to comply with health protocols, even if it may render additional cost.
Ganun pa rin po yung presyo namin, ma'am. Dahil hindi naman po pwede itaas namin, ma'am, at kawawa din naman po yung katulad namin na walang trabaho.
Based on the approved guidelines of the IATF, restaurants should strictly impose health protocols. This include a no mask, no entry policy, calibrated thermal scanning, distancing of tables and chairs, visible floor markings, and regular disinfection, among others. The palace says the move is essentially in the interest of the workers.
Economic yan dahil hindi bababa sa, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, 11,000 employees in Metro Manila alone, no, ang nagtatrabaho sa mga restaurants. No? Meron pa po yung supply chain.
The IATF is set to present the recommendation to President Rodrigo Duterte for his approval. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, WR1 News.
COVID-19 cases in the Philippines top 24,000. This is after the Health Department tallied a total of 443 new COVID-19 cases, 253 of which are fresh cases. The DOH also recorded 9 new COVID-19 deaths, bringing total fatalities to 1,036. Meanwhile, a total of 5,165 have recovered from the SARS-like disease, with 270 new recoveries recorded today. While the rise in cases continues, DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says that the COVID-19 reproduction number is already below 1 in Metro Manila. This, as per Vergere, is a good indication that the virus is not spreading that fast. UP Institute of Mathematics Professor Guido David says that the reproduction number, or R0, in Metro Manila is between 0.96 and 1.2, which classifies it as a medium to high-risk area. This, he says, is an indication that the curve is flattening. All businesses conducted online are now required to be registered under the BIR. For the details, Camille Samonte is joining us live from Mandaluyong City. Camille, so what's the update here for online businesses?
Just as online selling explodes during the community quarantine, the Bureau of Internal Revenue reminds vendors on the platform to register their businesses and pay corresponding taxes.
Just like many employees, Audrey's job as a marketing specialist was affected following the implementation of the community quarantine. To make up for her salary loss, she decided to sell baked sushi online. But her earnings might be reduced after the BIR required online businesses to register.
Okay yung registration ng, let's say, yung business names kasi legitimacy yun. Pero yung tataksan mo yung small business, I don't think it's a good idea.
A pastry seller calls on the government to exempt small businesses from paying taxes.
Makikita or masasabi na yung mga small business na may maliliit na income, for the whole year, sila yung exempted sa tax. And then yung mga matataas or malalaki yung mga kinikita nila through online selling, sila yung magbabayad ng tax para kahit papano magkaroon ng fairness.
The BIR memorandum covers payment gateways, delivery channels, internet providers, and other business facilitators. The BIR also urges entrepreneurs to declare past transactions and pay for their appropriate taxes. The agency warns that those who will not comply shall be imposed with applicable penalties under the law. Senator Riza Hontiveros slammed the BIR, saying that instead of targeting online sellers, the agency should go after POGOs with huge tax tax liabilities. The palace, meanwhile, has maintained that they are collecting unpaid taxes of POGOs. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, POGOs are among the government sources of funds for its COVID-19 response programs. Finance Undersecretary Carl Kendrick Chua also clarified that those earning below 250,000 pesos will not be slapped with levies.
Just online sellers can register their businesses until July 31. Those who will register after the deadline will have to pay for the late registration penalty. Jess?
All right, thank you for those updates. Camille Samonda reporting to us live from Mandaluyong City. We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns. A day before what is touted as the Mañanita protest, authorities warn protesters will be dispersed. And after the death of a Filipina who failed to get a bus ride home, the government puts a stop to the Balik Probinsya program to prioritize those stranded in the metro. I'm Jess De Los Santos and you're watching The Big Story. The government stands firm mass gatherings are not allowed amid the ongoing health crisis. The latest warning came just a day before the planned Mañanita protest on Independence Day. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara on Thursday asserted that rallies are temporarily banned solely for public health reasons. But the National Union of People's Lawyers refuted this, saying there's no law prohibiting demonstrations even during a pandemic. In fact, the Interior Department already instructed the Philippine National Police to disperse protesters and to advise them to return home. But Chief of Joint Task Force COVID Shield Guillermo Eleazar says maximum tolerance and a calibrated response will be observed. The Movement Against Tyranny and other groups said they plan to hold Mañanita protests tomorrow, June 12. Speaking of Independence Day, President Duterte will skip the formal rites in Luneta tomorrow. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea will represent him instead. Roque adds that the chief executive will still be in Davao by June 12. The Education Department stands firm. Classes will start come August 24. But stakeholders are concerned with the DepEd's plan of blended learning for students and the additional expenses that come with it. Manos Baños relays their worries in this report.
Since June 1st, the first day of enrollment for next school year, over 9.6 million students have enrolled from kindergarten to senior high school. This, says Education Secretary Leonor Briones, accounts for 36% of their projected enrollees for 2020. In NCR alone, the epicenter of the country's outbreak, over 1.4 million students have registered. The Education Department stands by its distance learning program, saying it's feasible and doable come August 24.
It is very difficult, it's very tough. Questions are being asked. Mr. Chair, are we ready? Well, we are right now. We would not be ready on this day, but by August 4, we believe we can be August 24. We can be ready, and we are on the road to readiness with the level of support that we are getting from in the entire Philippine society, and technology, as I said, has been very helpful. We're all going all out. We have August 24 in our mind.
But senators are anxious. How can parents help their children with modules when some are no longer familiar with topics in schools while others are illiterate?
Kung meron tayong training for teachers, meron ho ba tayo for parents?
Siguro ilagay namin yan sa app in the DepEd Commons na i-develop yan na for parents who want to have a rundown on how to monitor or to what are the basic concepts you are teaching.
But one main concern remains to be connectivity, which might also mean additional expenses for parents as they purchase mobile data or broadband. Electricity bills are also a problem.
Malaki pong gastos ang naka-front sa ating mga magulang kung paano nila ibabudget yung kuryente.
There are also areas in the country like the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM where internet connection poses a huge challenge. In the province of Tawi-Tawi alone, cell phone signals could not be easily reached.
Internet penetration in BARM is estimated to be as low as 20%. Given this reality, we cannot solely rely on the internet for teaching and learning delivery mechanisms.
Public Schools District Supervisors Association thinks that much of the blended learning will rely on modular approach, but that too comes at a hefty cost. With this, the League of Cities of the Philippines suggests to postpone the resumption of classes on August 24, doubting that teaching materials will be distributed on time. The delay will also give teachers time to train as well as allow government to troubleshoot problems. But Briones insists classes will start in August.
This will not be the last pandemic. There are others. Plagues, wars, famines which might suddenly appear. And if we don't tackle these problems now, we will be unprepared to meet the problems which will occur when we feel that we are already ready.
Meanwhile, DepEd also plans to give teachers gadgets to help them facilitate the blended learning system. Briones also urges donors to donate gadgets to students. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
Following the death of a house helper who failed to get a bus ride home, the government now vows to help stranded passengers. Palace spokesman Harry Roque says that Malacanang is shocked by the death of Michelle Silvertino, who reportedly walked for 5 days from Cubao to Pasay to get a ride to Bicol. Roque says a new policy has been crafted to help those stuck in airports and bus terminals. He also calls on local governments to either help or tap the Social Welfare Department. To better facilitate their return, the National Housing Authority has suspended the government's Balik Probinsya program. NHA General Manager June Escalada says that they will first assist overseas Filipino workers, students, and tourists stranded in NCR. Balik Probinsya beneficiaries are those who have homes in Metro Manila but originally came from provinces.
Kung tapos na ang ating GCQ and there are already transportation available right now, itong si Hatid Tulong initiatives natin will simply die down hindi na siya kailangan ng ating mga kababayan. The Balik Probinsya will now come in. So I am dependent upon Yusek Roque sa declaration ng ating DOTR as to when finally they will open our transportation system. That in the next month, let's say for example July, I think bababa na ang demand ng stranded and therefore 30 days or 1 month from now.
These are the other big stories today. Boracay is set to reopen on June 16. However, only Western Visayas residents are allowed to visit the island. AirAsia will be the one opening flights to the island destination. Those 21 years old and below and senior citizens will not be allowed to enter. The LTFRB has approved more than 35,000 cars to transport passengers starting today, June 11. Over 18,000 of those are TNVS units like Grab, while nearly 17,000 are taxis. There will be no fare hikes as per the LTFRB. But passengers have to go cashless to get a ride. They also have to wear face masks. The Land Transportation Office will begin distributing the new color-coded plates for motorcycles next week, with 15,000 plates already arriving. This means those who will have their motorcycles registered next week may get their new plates. Also called the Doble Placa Law, the new scheme requires 2 motorcycle 2 plates, a decal in front, and a bigger metal plate at the back. The weather disturbance off the coast of the Bicol region has intensified into a tropical depression named Butchoy. Pag-asa says Butchoy is spotted 75 kilometers northwest of Daet, Camarines Norte. It has maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 55 kph. Signal number 1 is raised over 14 areas, including Metro Manila. Pag-asa warns moderate to heavy rainfall, which may lead to flash floods or landslides, is expected in these areas in the next 24 hours. Butchoy is forecast to cross Polillo Island and make landfall in Quezon or Aurora between Thursday night and Friday morning. More big stories coming up after the break. Keep it here on One News. This is a big story, and I'm Jess De Los Santos. It's a whole new normal as well over at the Supreme Court as it shifts to virtual means. And among issues keeping it busy is ABS-CBN's franchise renewal bid. Marlene Alcaide has the details.
The Supreme Court has adopted various ways to cope with the COVID-19 crisis. These include online filing of complaints, court hearings through video conferencing, and this morning, the annual Chief Justice Meets the Press was held online for the first time.
Admittedly, I am not a techie person, and so I had to catch up and familiarize myself with those so-called online meetings and other innovations. Marunong na akong mag-Zoom.
When asked about ABS-CBN's battle for a fresh 25-year franchise, the country's top magistrate says the network's petition to be back on air will be taken up on July 13, over 2 months after ABS-CBN went off air.
The case was set for case for July 13, no? But when I say July 13, then it is call again for July 13. I do not know if the resolution will already be ready. It is called again July 13.
Recall that ABS-CBN requested a temporary restraining order against the cease and desist order issued against it by the National Telecommunications Commission. Asked what's taken the High Court long to act on the network's TRO request, Peralta says they have just received the comments of both chambers of Congress on the petition. As for the much criticized anti-terrorism bill, Peralta says parties who want to question the constitutionality of its provisions are welcome.
It will depend on the deliberations whether to conduct an oral argument or to require a comment first, conduct an oral argument. It will depend. It will depend on the issues, no? Because they might be asking only veto of certain provisions or the veto of the whole law. So it will depend.
Peralta also explained the delays in petitions to release some persons deprived of liberty.
Unfortunately, the member in charge cannot come now to Manila. And there's no flight yet from his place in Visayas, to Manila. But that is already submitted for deliberation. And what we do in the Supreme Court is that we cannot tackle something if it is not deliberated upon. And the one who will present the case to the NBank is the member in charge. So I hope that he can come this Tuesday, and I assure you that once that he's here, I believe that case will now be finally resolved.
Meanwhile, as courts nationwide resumed operations, the Chief Justice said they conducted free rapid testing on all employees at the Supreme Court. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
But it's not just the shutdown order itself making life difficult for ABS-CBN. The network once again defended its sale of Philippine Depository Receipts, or PDRs, to foreigners. this time finding an ally no less than the Securities and Exchange Commission. At a House hearing today, SEC Commissioner Efiro Luis Amatong said there's no basis to say ABS-CBN violated their regulations when the network issued PDRs to foreigners. He also believes that the media giant was in good faith when it offered, issued, and sold PDRs to the public, the same practice its rival network GMA7 has been doing. ABS-CBN has time and again asserted that the company's PDR holders are mere financial instruments and are hands-off when it comes to the broadcasting firm's decision-making. And just when we thought it's over, African swine fever continues to cripple the hog industry, even pushing pork prices up. Meanwhile, the poultry industry is dealing with oversupply due to low demand. Shaila Francisco with the details.
As if the COVID-19 pandemic was not enough, the problem with the African swine fever still persists in the country. And now it's pushing pork prices yet again. The price of pork increased by 10 to 20 pesos this week, meaning liempo is now priced at 280 pesos a kilo, while kasim or laman costs 250 pesos, way above the suggested retail price.
Sana nga po, kung pwede, babaan eh.
Para?
Kasi hirap din kami. Lalo ngayon po, wala kaming trabaho.
Wala naman kaming magagawa kasi mataas din naman yung puhunan ng baboy eh.
With ASF still around, hog raisers say around 40% of production in Luzon was affected, resulting in shortages. Some dealers are forced to source pork from farther areas. Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura says prices could still go up to 300 pesos per kilo. To prevent this, they are asking the DA to bring in the surplus from Mindanao. The DA is already prioritizing the shipment. They're also looking at non-ASF areas where they can restock hogs. For now, they're also looking to adjust the SRP.
So sabi ko po sa livestock sector, make a recommendation to the group looking at SRPs para doon maproseso and we will do the needed action in the future.
It's a different story though for poultry raisers as they have to deal with oversupply. With low demand due to the pandemic, the United Broilers Raisers Association has asked the DA to stop imports. In an open letter, they claim that the Bureau of Animal Industry asked them instead to limit production to make space for imports. The DA clarifies they only seek self-regulation to balance production nationwide.
Pag-usap-usap sila para mag-spread out sila para kahit ma-quarantine sa lugar, may supply tayo sa ibang lugar.
The DA says it's difficult to stop imports, especially with trade agreements under the World Trade Organization.
Because yung commitment natin to the WTO, it's a commitment to trade. It is not a commitment to commit suicide. Patayin mo yung industriya mo na pinanggagalingan ng maraming kabuhayan.
UBRA has advised some of its members to reduce production for now. For its part, the DA is coordinating with processors to buy excess chicken. The agency also strengthened import regulations and instructed traders to import the insufficiency in the country's supply. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
A Filipino artist is making the most of the lockdown by making character face masks. Prosthetic artist Rene Abelardo took the internet by storm as he started selling these not-so-ordinary masks. His usual subjects, spooky creatures. Abelardo spends about an hour working on each face mask, which he then sells online for 300 pesos. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos and we are One News. Good evening.